Starting it's hard. How did you start it?
Hey guys! Hey, we're back!
I'm not doing that. So, I feel a lot of pressure right now. Sorry. So hey guys, my name is Daphny Emily.
And I'm Eerees.
And we are Soulful She.
Oh, yeah. So, we are super excited because we are two bodacious beauties from Brockton. Say it one more time, Brockton. Unraveling our truths about identity, empowerment, mental health, and fashion through conversations from the soul. And we are on episode 4. And we are excited. And I hope that you've tuned into 1 through 3. And if you haven't, definitely do that.
And as my lovely Eerees has so eloquently said about ourselves, again, we are the two bodacious beauties from Brockton. And we're here today. It's kind of weird for me today. I'm like off of it a little bit.
I guess
I was like so ready, and then now I'm just like, what's going on?
Is it because we're in front of a camera?
No, are we in front of a camera? We're supposed to act like we're not in front of the camera.
I mean, what? Did I say camera?
Well, I guess starting it off, because how we usually start it is keeping it real quick, and that was me being a little bit real about how I feel, but today has been a really good day.
Oh.
I lied. Today was really busy. It was really busy at work, really busy. Honestly felt like I was losing my mind, but after, I think, knowing that we're gonna come here today and like we're gonna shoot and we're gonna do our podcast, I still had a very positive mindset all day. So maybe that's where I'm at. I'm just feeling good. I had a great day and I have no complaints. Other than work was busy, so that's one complaint.
Okay. And does busy have to be a complaint?
Yeah, because I don't want to be busy.
Okay.
You like being busy?
Kind of, yeah. Because I feel like if I'm not busy, then time goes very slow. And when time goes very slow, I'm watching every hour on the hour. And then it's just like, when is that day gonna end?
Well, there's a difference between busy, like not being busy, and being bored. I would rather be doing what I want to do at my pace, chilling. That's not busy.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Because you can still be productive and not have to be so busy.
I guess my not busy productivity is not doing anything but chilling. So if that's productive, then that's fine. I just prefer to do that and maybe just not be working.
So okay.
So not working. That's what I'm saying. Not working. But still getting paid somehow. So
there was this Twitter tweet that I saw that someone goes, I'm looking for a job that pays $700 an hour, and I start from 7 o'clock to 7:05, and that's it.
See, that sounds like a job fit for me. And let me tell you, I can write a mean resume, so if they need me to, work on that really quick,
Those
I can.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I can accomplish a lot in 5 minutes, especially if you're paying me $700 an hour. Well, it's only $700 an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm only.
No. 700 a minute. Sorry.
Oh.
700 a minute, and then from 7 to 7:05.
Okay, way better. Because I thought about it. It was like an hour. Then I only get. Do I even get the 700? What's just the time limit? Anyways, getting too in depth. But that's how my day was. Keeping it real quick. Eerees, how was your day? How are you feeling?
Okay, keeping it real quick. Today was Monday, and I will be fully transparent, and I felt like there was a lot coming at me right now. And I guess not right this second right now, but just today. Because I always have a plan. I always have a to-do list, but then there's also needing to be flexible and adaptable for what you don't prepare. And there was a lot of what I wasn't prepared for. So there was a lot of people that were coming to me to say, hey, I need you to get this done and it's due today. And or, hey, I need you to get this done and I need it today because it's due on Wednesday. So it was a lot of like, I didn't know about it beforehand, I need to get it done, and it's due today with the rest of the stuff that needed to get done today, or with the rest of the stuff that I was planning to do today.
Right.
And so it was just a lot of...
How do you handle something like that? Because I can tell you what I usually do when that happens.
I don't think I'm a good, I'll say I'm not good at saying no. So because I'm not good at saying no, when that does come in front of me, I'm like, oh, okay, you need to get this done. It is urgent, and you are telling me that it is urgent. Therefore, let me pause this to get this done for you. And so I'm not that great at being like, you know what? I get that it's urgent. I get that you want it, but like, this is what I'm doing. If it fits in there and if I get to it, then I get to it. But if not...
Well, I feel that. I'm the type of person that I feel like if I have a million things coming at me at once, I just drop everything. Like, if I have so much going on and so much coming at me, I'm just like, I'm not doing nothing.
Not even the stuff that you had on your list.
Because I'm overwhelmed at this point. So when I'm overwhelmed and I feel like there's a lot, I'm just like, I'm not doing anything. I have to step away. I still, as much as I say that, I still have to get something done. So I'm learning the whole, I'm not really good at saying no either. I'm just very good at deflecting. So, not very good. I'm learning to deflect, which I should be learning to just be like, no.
Yeah.
So, to be assertive. I can be assertive though.
Well, isn't saying no assertive?
I mean, it is, but I can be assertive except for that.
Okay, well, I think that brings us to a really good segue to conversations from the soul. Because I think that the number one thing that people sometimes forget when it comes to saying no is saying no is not being disrespectful. Saying no is not being rude. Saying no is not invalidating someone's task or you just coming off as negative. Saying no is caring for yourself, you know? And one of the things that in my old job that we used to do, segueing to conversations from the soul, is we used to have 3 quotes. And those 3 quotes would be given in the beginning of our staff meeting. And depending on the mood, whoever was facilitating the meeting, you would choose one of those quotes to speak into existence during that time of the meeting. And we would think about that and like just meditate on it as we're going through our staff meeting, but as we're also paying attention to the week. Right. And one of them, I won't read all of them, but there's one of them that basically says to allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is to succumb to the violence of our time. And that was by Thomas Merton. And that was one of the 3 quotes that we would read in the beginning of our staff meeting. And I want to segue into our conversation of the soul, which is self-care. And I know that self-care is a very cliche, like overused term that we are beginning to reevaluate, but also look at, because I think that when you think of self-care, the first thing that you think of is like candles and bubble baths and as she and I know that my tone was not the greatest, but I don't want to invalidate that either, because self-care can look as many different ways as you want it to look like.
Just called me hella cliche.
I didn't mean that.
I'm still gonna say it. I feel slightly attacked.
Listen. Self-care, I will preface it that self-care can mean anything to you, but I think that during this time and for a very long time, we've taken self-care to be such a And I think Zara put it really well, like cosmetic, where it's just like, you know, I want to look pretty, I want to feel pretty, and that is actually important too. I'm not taking that away. Self-care is that as well, but there's so much, self-care is also so much deeper than that. And when I think about that quote of like, you know, being taken away with so many projects, so many demands, so many commitments, you really need to think about like, you know, self-care is also saying no. You know, self-care is also thinking about the things that aren't just going to make you temporarily happy, but are going to actually help you be the wholesome and true self that you are, and help you self-soothe. And so I wanted to discuss, you know, your ways of self-caring, but then also breaking it down and really thinking about what is the cliche self-care that is being given and that I think about, but what also is a real true self-care that I haven't even like delved into yet, because I don't acknowledge that as self-care.
Right. That's where I jump in.
Word.
I crossed out number 1.
What did you cross out though?
Candles? Well, for me, I've become a candle connoisseur as of recently. It's not something I've done for a long time, and I've learned when I started buying candles, whatever, and this specific scents, vanillas, those kind of scents are something that are very soothing to me, and fire is very soothing to watch. So over the years, it is very soothing to watch. If you've ever looked at a flame, I'm not saying I'm trying to set things on fire, but it's relaxing to kind of just watch a flame. It's like when you watch those videos that are very soothing. There's things that are repetitive where kind of like there's a weird pattern to it, whatever. It can be soothing. So the flame, and then just having that light, that soft light in the background in a dark room, is something that I've always found has been like, not always found, but like when I got into candles, something that is really soothing. And I was like, wow, this is why people buy candles. Like, this is why people go ham when they have the sales at Bath and Body Works.
Going ham.
Because
the 3 for like, what, $10 or $12?
It's like 3 for $8. It was $8. I don't know what it is now, but, and people like buy piles of it. I understand. Because I run out of them really quickly because I keep them burning. For a while. So candles are a self-care thing for me.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not feeling judged, but I'm feeling judged.
Because at the end of the day, right now, you're just reiterating that the self-care and the self-soothing mechanism that you use
is looking at fire.
Is looking at fire, meditating on the fire, but also the scent, the aroma.
I don't really stare at the fire too long. I'm just saying it's something cool about it. Anywho, but for me, there's a lot of things that come into play when I think about self-care. Before I really go down my list, is kind of expressing the person that I am and how I am, like I said earlier, and you easily segue into the conversation from the soul, is that like when there's a lot going on for me, I have to stop or I have to block everything out, because I literally feel like I have to be very organized in my mind. Even if I might not look organized on the outside, but everything in my mind has to be aligned. So if I'm working on something, I already have things aligned in my mind. This is why you're always telling me, write it down. I don't have a habit of writing things down because in my mind, I've kind of already organized it. So when I start getting messy, it would be smart to write things down. But that's not how I naturally function. So that's when I start feeling like overwhelmed, because I'm like, wait, I have to do this, or I have to do this. Oh snap, like now I'm remembering that I'm having to do this.
The list is...
So now as the list is like churning in my head, I'm like, delete. Like, I'm not doing any of this. Like, I'm walking away. And that's something that I do to kind of cope and to take care of myself. I think in terms of like work and having to do certain things have to get done. I've definitely created like spreadsheets and stuff to keep me organized. And the way the spreadsheets that I create work are very color-coded, very specific, that like people will look at it and be like mad confused because they're like, what is what? And I'm like, it works in my brain. Like, I don't even have the words to explain how it works to you.
And you don't need to.
So the spreadsheets are my brain. They're just physically something you can see. But when it comes to self-care, and especially with everything going on now and with the world and not only just, it's just crazy right now with coronavirus, being stuck at home, working from home. You're not able to be out and about with your friends as much, or you shouldn't really be.
I like how you said that you shouldn't
really be. You know, we're wearing masks everywhere we go, and it's those things that we're like, we leave the house and I'm like, oh snap, my mask. And then walking around and seeing everyone in masks, it's traumatizing, because it's like, this is not the world I know, and all of a sudden the world's completely different, and now everyone's saying things might just stay like this forever, and I can't live like this forever. I cannot. And on top of that, with the police brutality and just the racism that is just uprising, and us fighting back and being like, no, we're taking a hold of what's right, and all of that going on, that self-care is really big time right now, because me the last few weeks, I felt like I was really, I told you, I felt like I was on the verge of a panic attack. Like, I can feel it coming on. I feel it building up. And I'm telling myself, you're going to have a panic attack, but how do you cope with it, and how do you take care of it so you don't have a panic attack? And in thinking about that, now I'm like, no, I'm building up the thought that I'm going to have a panic attack. So, like, over this time, it's been a lot. Yeah. So, what have I done to, like, deal with it? I've tried really hard to do certain things, but of course it still affected me, because we're human, and as much as we work on ourselves, or we want to work on ourselves, we're still trying to learn how to work on ourselves. Which is in part of why we're doing this right now, to kind of give ideas on what we do that maybe can help other people, that definitely help us. So for me, self-care is candles, like I said before, but some things that I've learned through the years is I'm a person that
someone got real excited.
I felt I was feeling the way mid-sentence, and I was like, am I gonna finish the sentence or not?
I felt you like getting higher and higher, and I was like, ooh.
There's really no point, because they're gonna be so much louder than you. But for me, self-care, I don't even know what I was gonna say anymore. Learning myself, knowing myself through the years, I've learned that when I've lived with people, especially, that I have a habit of wanting to be alone. And I've lived with people, and I've been in relationships with people that didn't understand that, because they're people that have to be up and about and going and moving, and I'm the type that's like, I just want to sit here for even a couple of hours. I don't care if I'm awake and I'm laying in bed, but I just need this time. I'm not getting up to run and get ready right now. Like, I don't want to. So I've been in relationships where people had to learn that, and then I've learned that, because I realized that, like, people don't all do this. Like, I love being alone. I love solace. I love taking a break from the world. It's funny, because even with those breaks, I do feel loneliness, but I'm just like, accept the loneliness for right now, but you're doing it because there's a reason why you want to do this. So a big self-care thing for me is being alone. Not having the words to talk to people, not talking to people, not answering my phone.
Not needing the words.
Just, not needing the words, like you said. It's just being away from everything. From the news, from social media, which is on my list, like social media breaks, just stepping away from anything, and just sometimes just laying there and daydreaming, or reading, which I'm trying to pick up on, or watching trash reality TV because, it's funny, or just finding things that I enjoy to do by myself. But that's something I've really learned about myself, that self-care, like being alone, being on my own, and needing that break, and not feeling guilty if I'm just like, I don't have that for you right now. Like,
say that again.
Not
please.
Feeling guilty. Just not feeling guilty when people, like, this weekend, my dad was hitting me up saying, like, if I wanted to go help him with this and that. I felt guilty in the moment, like, not wanting to, but I kept telling myself, like, you don't feel like leaving the house, like, don't leave the house. So that's big for me, is being alone. And some people still don't get it. Some people always question, like, why? And I'm just like, because I want to be alone.
There's nothing
I don't
wrong
know
with it.
the words. I just want to be alone.
And I think that someone said this, or I saw this somewhere, where it's like, we as women are usually conditioned to, like, give you a reason and, like, make you feel comfortable about the decision that we're making. And it's like, you don't actually need to do that. You can just say no, or you can just say whatever it is that you were going to say without needing to explain to someone why you're deciding to make that decision. It's like, I made this decision, be okay with it. If you're not, I'm okay with it. But yes, that's your problem.
I mean, in the situations where people have tried to take me out of that, I catch an attitude. So you pick what you want. So let me be, and I won't be rude or have an attitude. I'm just in the zone. You go and do what you gotta do, and we'll reconnect later. We'll reconvene later.
Yeah.
But yeah, being alone is one of the biggest things for me. And then what falls under being alone is napping.
There's nothing wrong with napping.
I don't think there's anything wrong with napping. I made that face because it's like something you very much know that like, if I'm not answering right now, if I'm not talking to you right now, I'm napping. It will be midday if it has to be. I don't care. Like, if I'm sitting in my room and I'm just not doing anything, I don't want to do anything, I'm gonna take a nap. Nothing wrong with extra sleep.
Napping, I feel like, is good because I am a big believer that your dreams are your subconscious speaking to you. And so, like, when you nap or when you sleep, there is that chance for the subconscious to speak to you in ways that your conscious is not listening.
See, my dreams lately have not been it, so I don't want to claim them. My dreams have been a mess lately. A mess. And tapping into them, I don't know, because I don't remember them after a while. And I'm just like, I knew I was feeling away, and now I don't know why I'm feeling away. But my dreams have been a whole mess. But it's okay. I'll tap into them maybe. I don't know what they're trying to tell me.
I feel like that's a different story that we can get into on a different day, because I would love to unpack that.
Girl, I don't remember these dreams. What am I unpacking?
Well, no, just dreams in general.
Well, yeah. We can unpack that, but I've had some weird dreams lately. We have a friend that makes banana bread, and I dreamt about it. I don't know what happened in that dream, but I dreamt about the banana bread, and specifically how good it is, and I just knew it was good. And why I dreamt about it?
Because you want more.
I shouldn't, though. I shouldn't. So yeah, napping is big for me. Something I've learned through the years, too, is stretching. And stretching kind of plays into breathing exercises that I've noticed has become really popular for people. Or I've seen on social media where you'll be Tracy Ellis Ross was doing breathing exercises on her Instagram. So I've realized that a lot of people are picking up on that, and that whole give yourself a breather, give yourself a second. That is definitely self-care. Like, you don't have to keep moving and running. Like, you can just stop and breathe. Yeah. So stretching does that for me, because the more you're breathing in, the more flexible you kind of are in the moment. So it's like you're stretching, you feel the pain, and then you take that deep breath, and then you're able to extend even more. And nothing wrong with being a little more flexible either. But stretching really does help me a lot. And the more flexibility, too, is better for your body. It's healthier for you.
It really is.
All around self-care coming from all different directions. But stretching, yeah, I have one video I've saved from YouTube that's like 14 minutes long. In that video, like, if I'm like, I need to stretch right now, I'm feeling like I need to, I definitely just throw that on. And it's a how to do the splits video.
Oh, but you're trying to get somewhere.
Of course. But the stretches itself they're not too difficult, but they make you feel like you have to take the deep breath. So that's why I really love the video, and I've saved it for years. I did mention social media breaks, especially within these times, I'll say many, many times.
Yes.
Social media is a whole mess. It has the greatest things and the worst things all in one, and sometimes you just gotta step away. And I want to keep reeling off my list, but I kind of want you to jump into with yours and then kind of play off each other. But yeah, social media breaks are big, and there's not too much to say about it. Like, it's like when I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to see people, I don't want to see what people are saying, I don't care about what you're wearing, I don't care about nothing. I don't want to be on social media. And that's how I feel when I'm in the moment. I'm like, when I start feeling this, it's like, time to delete Instagram from your phone, time to delete all these things. Like, delete them for now so you don't have the habit of just clicking into it. Yeah. And then when I go open my phone and I want to click into it, I'm like, it's deleted for a reason. Yeah. Get off my phone. And yeah, that's a big one for lately.
I know that you actually brought this up to me one day where you're like, oh, I have a timer on Instagram about like how much time I spend, and if I think you said an hour that you put a timer for. And I was like, you know what, how do I figure this out? And I happened to stumble across it on Instagram where I put a timer, and I was like, oh, okay, let me put this timer of 2 hours and 10 minutes. I don't know why 2 hours and 10 minutes, but that's what it was. And I would catch myself, like, I haven't caught it too often, which is good. That means I haven't surpassed it, but like maybe twice this week and last week did I come across the like, hey, you've already been on Instagram for 2 hours and 10 minutes, you know, head out. And I was like, oh wow, look at this. Like, this is...
Is that a setting on Instagram?
Yeah.
Because the iPhone has a setting for apps. So that's what I found.
Okay.
And that's because, you know how it gives you, like, it tells you how much time you're...
Yes.
It suggested it for me, so...
It said, girl, you only need an hour. Okay.
Well, I picked an hour, but when
Okay.
when you went in, like, when you go into it, it showed it, like, the option on there specifically for Instagram, and I was like, you know what? It's telling me for a reason.
So let me listen.
But Instagram has one too. Maybe I need to put both.
Yeah. I know I did it for Instagram, and I've become so attached to my phone in such a dependent but very bad codependency of my phone that, like, I notice that I'll pick up my phone and I have no need for it, no reason to, like, look at it, but I'm just like, I'm like looking and waiting to, like, for something to pop up. I might have looked at all my
tap the screen.
Basically,
you don't have any notifications. Like, it would have lit up if you had anything.
Exactly.
Just keep tapping the screen.
Like, it'll pop up somehow.
Like, all of a sudden something's gonna appear.
Yeah. But I think that that's one way. Me personally, I have tried to find a way to remove myself from social media as a way to really pay attention to and reprioritize my time.
Right.
Because I think that self-care also goes into what you're spending time on and what you're prioritizing on. Because I think that paying attention to social media is pretty awesome because of the knowledge and wisdom that you can find in there, but you can go into rabbit holes and you can get lost in ways that, like, you will start at one thing at 11 and then find out that it's 2 p.m. And you've been on there for, like, over 2+ hours.
Can you even say what you were even looking at?
Exactly. And it's just like, what did I spend my time on? Did I just waste time? Did I procrastinate on something that I should have been paying attention to? Could I have been doing something else more meaningful? Even though, like, being on social media and just, you know, because that's the thing, like, yes, there's ways that you can be more meaningful, but sometimes you do need that time to just be.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like, the way that you said silence and solitude, I think that that's definitely one way that I, too, find self-care, because I'm trying to be more mindful of my thoughts. I know that the way that you speak to yourself and the way that you are describing things for yourself and to others, like, language is really important. And I think that back in the day, they used to say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Like, that was the biggest lie in the whole wide world. The biggest lie in the whole wide world, because I used to say that all the time when I was little. And the more and more I grew up and the more I learned, like, words hold a lot of weight. And I think Kenzie mentioned that on Twitter one day, and it was just like, yes, I felt that, because words do hold a lot of weight. And so in one way of self-caring for myself is being good to myself and speaking well to myself, but also realizing what are my thoughts when I'm not paying attention. Because you can say something as you're speaking to me right now, but also, like, being alone and not thinking about anything, but really actually you, I guess you can't not think about anything. So spending time alone with your thoughts and noticing where your thoughts take you.
Right.
You know, noticing, where does my mind drift off to when I'm not paying attention, or when my conscious is just laying down.
Right.
And I used to do meditation every Wednesday afternoon at my old job. And there used to be a person that would come and meditate with us, and she would talk about how think of your thoughts as clouds just drifting by. Don't hold on to them. Don't give them more weight than they need to. Just look at them, acknowledge what they are, and allow them to continue to drift off.
I think that's my struggle with meditation. I've tried to get into it, but I feel like that, and I've learned over time, they're saying that you're supposed to have thoughts. But
yeah.
It's the most frustrating part for me is when you're meditating or when I've tried to, all I have is thoughts running through my mind. So I'm like, am I even meditating right now? Because all I can do is think about everything I don't want to think about. And like, how is this helping me? So I'm really trying to learn that.
Yeah.
Meditation.
And I think it's about just, you know, allowing yourself to be and just noticing, you know, noticing the patterns that are occurring, noticing what is happening, and just acknowledging, like, this is how I am right now. How would I like to be? Or this is the way that I'm listening to myself. What would I like to start saying to myself?
Right.
And so another self-care within that is, while I'm thinking about how I talk to myself, I'm also thinking about the language that I use, and how I speak to other people. Because I think that when I'm thinking about self-care, I'm thinking about just how I care for myself, but how I'm caring for others. And I think that is important, because am I putting too much weight on someone else that I could be putting on myself, you know? And
why, either way, are you putting weight on yourself too?
Say it again.
And why are you putting weight on yourself also?
I guess then the word was not weight, because I don't think and when I say weight, I guess priority. I meant that, you know, how am I prioritizing myself? How do I continue to, through the language and through the way that I speak, reprioritize me,
right.
In a way that I'm not downplaying anybody else, but I am reminding myself that, like, you know, caring for myself is not self-indulgent, you know? Caring for myself is...
Indulgent is such a good word, though, so why not be self-indulgent?
That's what I'm saying, is, and...
Because, like, you can indulge in chocolate, you can indulge in, like, junk food, you can indulge in, like, what you like, so I like myself, so I'm going to indulge in myself.
Yeah, and I think...
And chocolate.
Yes. And I think that during this time specifically too, during a time when a woman is usually raised to, you know, cook, clean, take care of somebody else,
right.
You know, put yourself first. And even in the small, tiny details when, like, you know, you have your family around and you're having family dinner, and it's time to cook, it's time to prepare the table. The woman is always the last one, usually in Dominican families and Dominican culture. The woman is the last person to feed herself. The woman makes sure that her man, husband, or father figure is the first one fed, and then her children are fed, and then if she even has the appetite, she sits down to eat. And sometimes it's more of like, why we are so programmed and conditioned to, like, make sure that everyone else is okay than to make sure that we ourselves are okay. Just the same way that it's like, put your life. Oh, what's the?
I have no idea, girl.
Put the Why I say this all the time and I can't remember it.
Well, you better wing it.
Seriously, put your mask. You put your mask on before you put someone else's mask on, the same way that, like, the flight attendants do. And it's like, that they say that for a reason. And so I think, going back to, because I feel like I just went on a whole tangent, it's reprioritizing and unlearning things that I was learning and was taught by, are ways that I figure out how to self-care for myself. Because at first I did it because of greed, but I would be like, if we are at a dinner table, I would be intentional and be like, oh, we're about to eat, I'm taking the plate and I'm feeding myself first, knowing that, like, I know from the back of my head, we're just conditioned to, like, you know, make sure your dad's eating, make sure your brother's eating, make sure that they're all set. I'll be like, nah, I'm getting my plate, I'm sitting down, we good. Oh, you guys gonna feed yourself? The plates are over there. Oh, you need a fork? The fork's over there. Go ahead, you got this. And at first, like, I was definitely doing it with malice. And so that's when I say, like...
Rebellious.
And rebellious, yes. And that's what I say, where it's like, you know, using my language carefully, to still be able to care for myself, but also not do it in such a way that I'm like downplaying or degrading someone else. Wow, that was a lot.
It wasn't though. So playing on that, I definitely get it because I said rebellious because I tell you this all the time. I can be rebellious. I can be petty too. But when it comes to questioning the status quo or questioning how things are supposed to be, when I feel like I'm being put in that position, I will absolutely feel like I have to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Every single time. So in terms of like you feeding yourself, that's something I definitely would do. Like I've done it before. I've been in relationships where you go to their family's house and then, you know, food's ready, so like everyone's putting each other food. And I guess this debate came up on Twitter and I definitely ignored it about like, do you feed your man first? And it's like, he's a grown ass man. I'm not even at my family's house. I'm at your family's house. I'm the guest. Why the hell why am I serving you? Serve me. And if you don't want to serve me, I will serve myself. So that's the mental state I have sometimes. There's times I just don't care. It's just like, whatever, I'm here. Let me put you yours so you have yours, because clearly you don't know how to. I'm going to tell you before I get deep dive into that. Nothing against all men, but we've learned since we were young how to serve people and serve ourselves. So we know how to properly plate things.
Yeah.
Not all of these men out here do. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just rather do it yourself because you want it done right the first time.
Yeah.
So that's something that also comes into play. But being in relationships in those situations, the times I did it, I didn't care. Like, it is what it is. It's nothing about that whole status quo. But, like, I'm going to just plate you whatever because you do it for me too. But I definitely get that feeling of, like, when I feel like people are telling me I have to do this, or, like, all these women are over there serving their men, I just be like, all right, cool. But I'm going to get my plate. Like,
yeah.
I don't feel bad either.
Yeah, I think
if you love me, you understand.
That's true. I think, yeah, that's a whole different
that's a whole different category. But that is self-care. I'm caring about myself first, other than the being rebellious part. That's me clearly caring about opinions.
Yeah. So
that takes away from the self-care. But there's times that it's just like, why do I have to do all of this? Like, I'm just gonna be me, and whoever has whatever opinions they like to have, you learn, and that's part of self-care. Is like you learn to accept that people will have their opinions and they're irrelevant because the only opinion that matters first is your own of yourself. So who's gonna love you better than you, boo?
You gotta love yourself before you learn how to acknowledge someone else loving you. I completely agree. And thinking about just this whole conversation of, you know, self-care and conditions, I think another quote that pops up from the three quotes that we have chatted about, about the three quotes in the staff meeting, one more quote comes to mind, and it's by Pablo Picasso, which is an amazing artist. And it goes, "You must always work, not just within, but below your means. If you can handle 3 elements, handle only 2. If you can handle 10, handle only 5. In that way, the ones you do handle, you handle with more ease, with more mastery, and you create a feeling of strength and reserve." And I think that plays to a really big conditioning that we have been brought up in the United States, where it's like you need to be working, and your plate needs to be to the top, and if your plate is not to the top and a little bit more, like, you're not doing enough. And there's a lot of guilt that goes into, like, you just, you know, maybe you got all 5 things done from your work, but now because you have free time, it's like, what is free time? Am I allowed free time? And, like, you know, thinking about those things where self-care plays into this a lot, where in the work field, do you put more on your plate because you feel like you need to, as women of color, who need to be working 20 times harder than the average person? And then also thinking about, do you know how to, going back back around, like, do you know how to say no? You know, when it's like you were giving 10 tasks, but you know that if you take those 10 tasks and bring it down to 5, those 5 tasks will be amazingly done because you had time, you had space to really work on them and make them like the A+%, versus you get 10 tasks and it's like, you know what, I need to get those 10 tasks because since you gave them to me, I feel like I need to get them done. Right. And that's another thing that I'm working on myself, within self-care, of just understanding when enough is enough, and understanding how to speak for myself. Yeah. And to let someone know that, you know, you might want me to do this, but I don't have the capacity to do this. And or I would prefer to just do the 5 rather than to just do the 10. Right. And I think that happens, that can be put into the work, but it can be put into life, you know, because I think that in life, we also want to do everything. We want to help our friends. We want to go party. We want to, you know, help your mom with the groceries. And like you said, your dad, help him with this. But it's just like, out of the 5 things that you can be doing at home or can be doing during the day, you know, if you have 10 things, 5 of those things should be for you. You know, 5 of those things should be for you. 3 of them could be things that you want to do just to make you feel yourself good, temporarily. But then 2 should be like, okay, how am I really actually making sure that I'm finding mechanisms to soothe in a way that is not going to be temporary, so that I know that, okay, this is going to help me develop as a person. This is going to help me with my mental health, specifically as trauma just lives in us, and figuring out, you know, our inner child and figuring out those things of that nature, where it's like, how am I finding out more about myself to make sure that I'm a better human being, but also a better person for whatever comes in my future.
I agree, and I feel like you're listing all of the things on why you should be working, or like what you could be working on while you do specific things, but I want to know what are specific things you actually do. Too. And not taking away from anything you've said, because it's completely real. It's like, you know, self-care and that self-love is about taking time away for just ourselves, like focusing on ourselves. So what you be doing, Eerees? You telling us
what to do,
but what do you do?
Yeah. I think that's a difficult conversation sometimes, and I think that's why I am hoping that Soulful She helps with that, because I will say I have been so used to being the question asker, the questionnaire person, and the person that listens, that when it comes to my turn, I usually am like, ooh, who's next? Or, ooh, on to the next one. Go. But no, to go back, I am a writer. I used to do a lot more writing in college, but I am a huge writer, and reflection. You know, reflection is the number one thing that I think about, and also discussion. I would journal all the time when I was little, all the time. And I would do it in such a way that I was having a conversation with myself through the journal. And then, you know, I would journal for the first 5 days, and then the next week go back and each day read what I wrote. Because I think it's important to not just write down what you're thinking and how you're feeling, but also look back to it. Because many times, the way that I write, I put paper to pen, and I just allow my pen to speak. And sometimes I'm listening, but I'm really not listening. Okay. I'm just letting the pen speak. And so then when I go back to the next week and really look at it, I'm like, shit, what was I thinking? What was going through my head? And how have I learned from that that week? And so I'm also very much like, anytime I do have conversations with people, like I remember I had a conversation with my good friend Sam, and I had a poster paper on my wall. And as I was speaking to her, I was writing down things that were resonating with me. And then, you know, my good friend Julia, anytime I have a conversation with her, I'm like sitting down and like writing things that resonate with me that they might have a perspective that I was not paying attention to. So I think journaling is the number one thing for me. And also just music. I think I mentioned that before. Like, music is therapy. Writing is therapy. And those are the two ways that I am listening to myself in a way that is not me hearing it from someone else or me hearing opinions from someone else, but me actually delving into who I am in my core. Because I think that the way that you speak and the way that you write speaks volume, and what you don't say speaks even more volume, and how you say it speaks volume as well. Because I think that there's so many different ways that you can say one sentence, but the reason or the way that you say that sentence, there's so much behind that. Like, you could have, I don't know, my thought process is like, you could have said, I wish I had something down, where you could have said like,
you're trying to teach me. We're talking about what you do to help you.
No, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm just reiterating that this is what I do for
that's
myself.
How you're expressing yourself.
Yeah. So
I'm watching you like break it down, and I'm thinking to myself that she's like, I obviously don't get your process because it's your process. So I'm not gonna say I get it, but like watching you break it down, I'm like, you're going so in depth into this, and she's so explaining this, and I'm like, release it.
But I guess this is me releasing it. But I think that goes back to like, I will speak, but it might not speak fully, because I guess I'm also the type of person that I will be concise so that it's quick and out, because I know that the next person needs to speak. And so that's definitely something I need to unlearn. So thank you for pushing me.
I'm not trying to push you, but like, I'm watching you and I'm like, it's okay. Like, you can do this. Like, there's like this little like thing that you do that like you start going, then you're like, I just went on a spiel, and it's like, but you're supposed to. We're having this conversation, right? And people are also joining in and listening, and it's like, break it all down, because again, self-care.
Yes.
And it's easier on pen to paper than it is out loud. And I guess the understanding of how your brain works, like I said, my brain is really organized, and like explaining it to people is really hard. So when you're breaking it down, it's just like,
this is what's going on in my head.
You're not realizing because you're just saying it.
Yeah. But it's also unlearning, which I guess that's a self-care that I'm still learning, where it's like, how do I unlearn habits?
But there's a difference of self-caring and like taking care of yourself, than also being intentional in like improving yourself. Like, sometimes self-care doesn't always have to be improving yourself or bettering yourself, but kind of breaking yourself away for a moment just so you get some peace. You know, sometimes it doesn't have to be like, I need to be a better person and these are the things that I do that I need to work on. But it can be like, I just need to step away before I explode.
Yeah.
And I just need to breathe for a second. I don't need to be anything else.
Yeah.
I can just be still. I don't need to be better. I can be horrible right now. I can break some glasses if I have to. You can, yeah. You've always wanted to flip a table. You've
I've
told
done
me
it
that,
before.
have you? Just that in that moment, you just have to do, in the safest way possible though, things that help you relieve what you're feeling at the moment. So the writing and all of that, but sometimes it doesn't have to be a better person. Sometimes it can be like, I just need to survive this moment. I just need to breathe. I just need to be okay.
Yeah.
So let me just do what I have to do right now just to be okay, and then we can go back to working, because all we do is work. On top of anything else, we're working on ourselves. So self-care is improving ourselves and doing better for ourselves, but also acknowledging that you don't have to.
Yes. That is very true. I guess my thought process is, we get so caught up on the temporary self-care that the self-care that I'm trying to do is going to be
long-term improvement.
Exactly. So that I'm not going to the temporariness, because I've already created and I've already grounded myself in longevity, that when it does happen, it's not like a temporary thing, but more of like something that I've been doing so much that it's become second nature.
Right. And sometimes we're just gonna flip the table.
And we can do that too. You know what? We can definitely do that too.
And I think just being okay and being okay in ourselves, and like we can do whatever we have to do, and we just do what's best for ourselves. But you know, sometimes if you have to flip that table, I ain't judging. If you pay for it, I mean, that's your pockets. But like, if you feel good at the end of that temporary thing, then
you do you.
What else do you do? So you said music, journaling. I used to journal a lot when I was younger, or write. Whenever I was pissed off, I used to write everything down. And I didn't realize what I was doing, and then I stopped doing it for a long time. And then one day I'm on Twitter and someone's talking about it, and I was like, I just remembered, like when I was younger, I literally would be mad and like write things out.
Write your feelings down.
I'd go back later and be like, I was bugging. Because I was like 13, so you know what I'm mad at when I'm like
this
13.
This boy wasn't looking at me the right way.
First of all, when I was 13, ain't nobody looking at me. Nobody looks at me now, okay? But when I was 13, no one looked at me. I thought I was an ugly duckling. I didn't think I was. I was taller than everyone, but what I was mad at was probably like my sister or something, or like frustrations with like my mom, because like, you're a teenager and you're trying to grow up and figure out life, and there's probably something I was mad at that was so dumb, but like I wrote it all out, and I always remember feeling so much better when I was done writing. So much better. And I would keep saying I'm gonna do that, and I jump in back and forth. I'm like a random journaler. Like, yeah. I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, I should just write this down, and I'll just write whatever I feel.
Twitter is a journal too. Even though it shouldn't be, you know, I'm just gonna like because
I wouldn't advise me to journal on Twitter,
but people do though.
Yeah,
like people release in Twitter. I know some certain people do.
I mean, there's times that I've left because of that, because I start feeling that I have things to say, and then I'll start saying it on Twitter, and then I'm like, why did I just put all that out there? And it's why I've deleted Twitter a few times, because I realized it's a place that's so easy to write stuff and just express, and it was so easily falling into the negative that I'm just like trying to rework that mindset on Twitter and being like, I can have a positive mindset here. That's why me and Twitter have a very interesting relationship. But yeah, journaling is great.
Yeah.
I do it randomly. It's not something that like if I'm upset I just think of at first. I think the whole not doing anything is my first thing. I guess one big thing that I've learned through the years and trying to take care of myself, or something I've learned about myself, is that I easily feel uneasy, or I feel like I'm not centered, or I feel like there'll be moments that I'm driving and I'm like, I need to be more aware, and I feel like I'm not aware, or I just feel uneasy, like I'm not as hyper aware as I should be in like a situation that I am driving, and feeling like anything could happen right now and I don't have the control. I've had that feeling so many times.
Interesting.
That like I literally will go like a week or weeks feeling like I'm not centered right now. Like I feel like my feet are not even touching the ground. Like I'm just making motions and moving, but I'm not literally like in the moment, and
you're not present
at all. Like this, it's been times that I went through a phase, I remember last year, that I felt that way, and I was just like, I need to snap out of this because I'm literally not paying attention. But I'm like overtly telling myself to pay attention, and I'm feeling it in my gut that I'm just, something can easily happen right now because I'm just not here right now. And I learned, it's like, grounding's the word, but I learned that like if I sat on the grass, or I went to the beach, or being one with nature and like literally putting my feet in the grass, after that kind of situation I always felt so much better.
Yeah.
Never clicked as to why. Never clicked. Always felt centered in myself. And then my favorite podcast ever, The Friend Zone, they actually had an episode about grounding. And grounding is actually something that's scientifically proven that makes people feel better. It's kind of like, it's basically the electricity from the earth in your body. So it's like kind of you taking electricity from the earth by you touching the ground and being on the ground, or being on the sand, or being in the ocean. And there's so much science behind it, and I would love to break that down, but you can Google it if you want to. But grounding is that the act of sitting and being one with the earth actually recharges you in a way. And I've looked into it, and a lot of people have spoken to it, really helping with anxiety, really helping people feel like they are present, and being able to sit and breathe and like feel the earth, like feel that you are present in where you are. Because I'm very good at not feeling that way. So that's something that's big for me on self-care that I've learned. And I noticed that when I'm really getting out of whack, I'm like, I need to sit outside. Like, I need to picnic outside. I need to sit on the grass. I need to, like, you'll find me playing in the grass, my fingers in the grass. And it's not something I intentionally do. And I've learned that, I guess this must have been it the whole time, that I didn't know, that made me feel better. So grounding, and I say it all the time, when I feel a certain way, I'll be like, I really need to be grounded. Like, I need to do some grounding, and it does make me feel better. So if y'all haven't tried it, I think it's something that like we do and we don't realize. And I think that's why people love the beach so much. Because I don't think, the sun is beautiful and all that, but it'd be hot sometimes, and we'd be baking in this sun, and people don't even go into the water. They just be on the sand. So there must be something about that feeling that feels so good, because I know it ain't all just the sun. It ain't just tanning. And if you ain't going into the water, what really is it? And I'm just gonna assume it's grounding. Can you tell I'm not a huge... I like the beach. I don't love the beach.
Yeah.
So like I'll be at the beach, and I have to be in the water if I'm at the beach. Like why are we just sitting on the sand? But I play with the sand and things like that, so I understand. You don't go in the water?
What?
So why do you go to the beach? I'm a serious question, because like, what's enjoyable about the beach if you're not going into the water?
I definitely enjoy the water.
Okay.
But I have caught myself not needing to be in the water all the time. I think that just being outside is the most important part, and just being outside and being quiet and being, you know, basically, yes.
See, there's a word for it. Yes. It's called grounding.
But yeah, I think just being one with nature. Nature is here for a reason, and we need to take advantage of it.
Honestly, a lot of the things that, everything that's good for us comes from the earth. And even in eating, and I've learned my mental health can go really out of whack when I'm not being healthy, or not eating healthy, or I'm not getting the proper nutrients. And I notice that as soon as I start eating clean again, and I cut out sugar, because sugar is the devil, I've learned that it really is. I cut out sugar once, and I lost 10 pounds in a week. And then overall, I lost like 20-something pounds in like no time. And I was like, since then, I've learned sugar is the devil. We're so dependent on it. That first week of withdrawals.
But we don't even notice it.
Because when do you start eating all the sugar? When you're a little kid. Fruity Pebbles, when I start eating those, you know what I mean? Like
those are good though.
They are. But we are addicted to the sugar really young, because it's just how this world has worked, especially this country has worked. We consume a lot more sugar than we need at all.
And that's self-care too.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when I cut out sugar, and I self-diagnosed myself as lactose intolerant.
Same, actually.
Yeah, I mentioned it to my doctor, and she was like, you could be. So I just assumed, I guess I am, because you ain't gonna check. So she clearly don't want to check. So I'm just gonna say I'm lactose intolerant, and my body basically tells me I'm lactose intolerant. So avoiding dairy, things like that, I realized I feel so much better. I feel so much happier. So that being healthy overall, and eating natural foods and salads and fruits,
taking care of your body and
the nutrients.
Like
they teach us that. We just
that's
rather have Fruity Pebbles.
And the thing is also, your body tells you. You know, like
Mine does.
if that's another like way of self-care, of just like listening to yourself, listening to your body, because your body will tell you what you want and what you need.
I don't know. She'd be confused.
Because the thing is,
I look confused. Sometimes I be sitting with myself like, what do you want?
Because I think that one thing that happens is your body kind of tells you what you're craving in such a way where it's like, I'm craving sweet, or I'm craving this, or I'm craving that. It's because your body's asking for it. You know, your body will tell you, hey, I like this, or hey, you know, that Dunkin' Donuts, or, you know, that Burger King did not go well because it came out real quick. So like your body, if you actively are listening, it will tell you what it wants and what it doesn't want. And that's a huge another thing that we didn't even like think of, I forgot about, of just like self-care, you know, like listening to your body and what you put inside of it.
It's when you talk about the temporary self-care versus the long-term.
Yes.
Food does play into that, because when we're feeling away and we want to indulge, I pick ice cream. Even though I'm lactose intolerant, I will still do it because ice cream's great. Or like comfort food. Let's break this down. Comfort foods for me, like mac and cheese, mashed potatoes,
dairy.
Dairy. Yeah, dairy. Those things are what I want in the moment, because I'm like, I'm feeling mad, I'm feeling sad, this will make me feel better, but it's really, really temporary, because I'm lactose intolerant, so you know how long that lasts for me.
Listen,
because
the bathroom is waiting and actually calling me.
So all of a sudden now I'm in pain and I regret everything I did, but I did it for that few, not even 5 minutes to feel better, but actually eating healthier, and when I cut out like the bad foods and realizing how much more how much more clearer I'm thinking after you go through the withdrawals. Because that first week, I'm telling you, cut out sugar that first week, you feel like I was catching the attitude. But, you know, I didn't know if it was me or the withdrawals, because, you know,
the lack of
the sugar. I didn't know which was which, because, you know, I can just, attitudes be happening. But I noticed I was just confused a lot, and I just naturally can't stand people. So during that time period, I just really couldn't, and I couldn't with myself. And I was just like, why am I so confused? Like, you're so much smarter than this. You're asking really dumb questions. You don't do this. And I really Googled it, because I remember I was like, wait, you cut out sugar. And I Googled withdrawal symptoms of cutting out sugar. And, you know, that was that.
I gave you the answer.
So, but after you get through that, don't let it discourage you, people. After you get through that, you have all this energy. It's so weird how much energy I started having. I'm the type of person that loves to restart, like, my alarm, like, reset it. I'm not ready to get up. And
snooze is my best friend.
I don't like snooze, though. I need to, like, put a specific time. Snooze, I just don't have that habit, and then I oversleep when I do that. But, what was I gonna say?
Sorry.
No, but basically, like, for
Restarting.
me, it's when I cut out the sugar and I eat healthier, I'm automatically awake, which I'm pissed off about, because I'm like, damn, I have all this energy. But then I'm just like, wait, I have all this energy. Like, I'm good, and I just feel better. So self-care for me, really, when I'm really, like, a mess, I'm like, girl, look at what you're eating. And when I start realizing, like, I've just spent the last 3 months of quarantine eating whatever I felt like, because I'm in quarantine and I'm miserable, was making me more miserable. And now that I'm eating better, or trying to, because, you know, I just had a cinnamon roll or whatever, but trying to eat better, I'm keeping it real, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And my body reacts better to it, and you realize that, like, a lot of it is more than just doing these little things to help you feel better, but, like, you have to really look into how you're providing for your body, not just for your mind.
Yeah.
Because self-care is not just your mind, even though mind is a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's also your emotions and how you're handling your emotions and how you're able to express yourself, but it's also your body.
Yeah.
And that's exercising, and that's why people feel so good after they work out and eating healthy. So that's another big thing that I have to always remind myself, because in that moment that I'm not feeling okay, I want the ice cream, but I realize, like, that doesn't make me feel better in the end.
Temporary. Yeah. It's delayed gratification. And I think that delayed gratification is my segue into stepping into ourselves.
I know, because conversation from the soul is really spewing from the soul right now.
So thinking about stepping into ourselves, I am gonna ask you, and also hopefully y'all, is what, if thinking about delayed gratification and thinking about the longevity of self-care.
Explain
delayed gratification is a perfect example of delayed gratification that I do is when you are going into a grocery store, you are going into the parking lot, and when you drive into the parking lot and into your spot, do you drive into it through the front or turn around and back up into your space?
Never back into it.
So, see, delayed gratification is turning around and backing into it, because you took a little extra more steps to position yourself in that way. But once you do go to the grocery store, pack up your stuff, and you turn on that car, you just have to get out.
Right.
You don't have to turn back, point, make sure you're not hurting anybody, turn around, and, like, do that whole mishima that you could have done beforehand.
Right.
And so that is an example of delayed gratification, of taking those 2 extra steps that you know is going to be a little extra step right now, temporarily, but in the long run, it's going to help you, because once you get in the car,
You're ready to go.
you just leave. So it's just more of like, this is the same way of us thinking about self-care, and thinking about the temporary self-care versus the extra steps that you need to take for that delayed gratification for yourself. And so my thought process and my question to think about, you could either answer it right now or not, because I know time, but what do you feel like is a way that you can think about self-care through the lens of delayed gratification, and how you can think about it in a more long-term mindset, so that what is something that I can do that takes little extra steps, that I might not want to be taking this little extra steps right this second, but in the long term, it's going to be so much more of a gratification that I'm happy for, than for that immediate, like, oh, I just want this right now because I know it's going to fulfill me in this moment and very second.
I can give you a few quick examples that I can think of right now. I'm working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when I'm working, I use my laptop, or I'll come here, I'll bring my laptop and have everything unplugged, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll go home, like once I go home, I just throw my bag there. I work at 7 a.m. I don't want to wake up at 6 to be working at home at 7 a.m. I don't need to. So if I just put my laptop on the table and have the charger positioned right, or have the headphones plugged in, have my notebook and pen already sitting there,
At nighttime.
when it's time to clock in for work, everything's already there. And I tell myself every time to do that, and then I just be like, I'm good with you, backpack. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow morning comes and I'm like, oh, I have to remember, because you gotta, to clock in, you gotta log in. So you gotta turn on the computer, you gotta plug in because my battery is about dead. So I gotta plug in the charger, I gotta do all the logging in stuff, and then clock in. And at this point, it's like, you gotta wake up early enough to clock in on time.
Mm-hmm.
And I still be late. Be like 2 minutes or whatever. It still counts.
But I think that's important, because you thinking about this, it's very small in the sense of, like, I'm thinking about this in my immediate thought process of work. And in work, I could be doing these extra steps behind the scenes at night to help me in the morning. And that can trickle off and be a snowball effect to the rest of the things, where it's like, okay, I'm taking the time to give those extra steps at nighttime for this. So once I create that habit, what else will I do that will allow me that, like, I'll do at the end,
Right.
and then I'll be super ready for in the morning.
There's a million things. I'd just be like, let me do that later. And then later comes and I'm like, wow, I could have just did this then and I'd be so much happier right now.
Yeah.
But I want you to relay the question again for the people. Are you going to answer this question now?
Sure.
Okay, then.
But I'll ask, what is thinking about self-care and thinking about delayed gratification, and thinking about really sitting down with yourself. So I would take a pen and take a paper, and
Or if you're me, do it all in your head and forget it later.
don't do it in your head. I really, really, really advise you.
See, the thing about you is you're the people that when you start a new job, I'm saying this because I'm triggered. So every time I've started a new job or I've worked somewhere, I've always had people feel away when new people don't write things down or don't take notes. And I'm like, now I have to fake it. Now, if I start a new job I bring a notebook just to act like I'm bringing a notebook, because people be judging me because I don't want to take notes. And I'm like, I don't learn that way. But yeah,
That is true.
Triggered. Triggered.
I appreciate you sharing that. I do appreciate you sharing that. I will share that. Yes, I advise you, and that's why I said advise. I'm not demanding, because at the end of the day, you do whatever you want, and I'm talking to y'all
I'm
too.
gonna take the notes.
But I, as a history major, and someone who is a huge writer, I'm a big person that, like, anything that you write, even like this sticky note that is telling us, like, for play-by-play of what we're doing, this can turn into an artifact. This can turn into evidence that someone can use in 3025 to just know what was happening in 2020, you know? So this is
2020 was crap. I'm gonna just say it now on camera and recording.
So yes, there are aspects of it. So
Aspects.
So this is evidence that we existed.
Right.
This is evidence that we were here specifically during a time when we really need to remember that history books and history lessons are written by people that won and are written by a very specific narrative and very specific authors. And so we need to continue to write and we need to continue to put it on paper because our minds are not going to be here in 3030.
Right.
You know? So it's more of like, I say write because everything that we write can potentially be evidence of our existence, and evidence that we were here. But also, to learn something, there are many ways that you can learn, but hearing it is one thing, writing it is one thing, believing it is one thing, and the more you do, like the more options that you give yourself and put in front of you for that, the better it will retain and stay in your mind. But I still say, if you don't want to write down, you don't have to write down. But I will say, if you can, and if you indulge me, I would take a paper and a pen, and I would sit down with your thoughts. You know, put some music in the background if you want to. My stego is pretty good. And just really think about what are my temporary self-care tools that I use for soothing yourself, for helping yourself, for making sure that you are finding solace with yourself and looking out for yourself. And make sure to, you know, do a column, and these are your temporaries. And then put another column where you're really thinking about, okay, these are my temporary self-cares. What are my delayed gratification self-cares? So then there's two columns. There is the temporary, and then there is the delayed gratification. And so I'm naming it like this. You can put whatever title you want, but just really sitting down with yourself and thinking, what am I doing that's going to temporarily help me and put a Band-Aid on something that like might explode right now? Or what is something that I can actually uncover, unpeel, and figure out why it's making me like that, why it's triggering me to do that, and what can I do, and how can I develop some type of soothing skills to help me in the long run. Right. And so that is my assignment for tonight.
And I'll come back with it for the next episode and be like, this is what I wrote down.
Yes.
You too.
Yes. Yes. And hopefully
I just gave myself homework. You didn't even think about it.
You said it first. But I know that episode 3, we had some questions for you. And so I know a lot of people were very helpful in saying that they loved the episode and that they enjoyed it. I would love you to, this time around, really think about joining us and actually taking part in the stepping into ourselves activity, and doing the activity and letting us know what you end up creating or what you end up reflecting on the list that you have.
And even self-care things that we could probably we never thought of that help you. And you know, I said last time I don't really be on Twitter, but like over this time period I've been on Twitter, so like you can find us there. We'll answer. I think I'm picking up on Twitter again, and it's so much easier in terms of communication that I really want to talk to y'all. So if that's easy for y'all, I'll be there, and I want to know. And if I have to do this, y'all should do it too.
This is not mandatory.
If I have to do this and I have to write it down, I'm just saying, you should too, I guess.
But definitely think about it, and if you do decide that you do it.
When you decide.
please share it with us. I would love to hear what you end up doing, or the things that come up for you. And so I want to end this with a quote by Audre Lorde, which is the third quote in our 3-quote series that we do for our meeting, and is, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. In moments of grief, crisis, or trauma, in the times before and after, we need each other to survive and thrive. And so make sure that caring for yourself is revolutionary. Like Audre Lorde said.
And making our way. So our whole conversation has been self-care. And now I'm like, does what I have to say about fashion forward even resonate anymore with me to share?
You can twist it in such a way.
Well, I'm going to just do it because, we here and I took notes. So we're going to do it. No. Going into fashion forward today, it's more, I wanted to have a conversation about, again, with everything that's going on in this world, we're calling out people now, and we're holding people accountable, and we're telling you that, there's systemic racism in this country that was built on our backs, is also set up to make us always be behind. And now we're calling people out, and we're becoming more aware of saying, no, at this point we want things to change, so we need to be doing more to have things change. So something that really I really appreciated noticing on Instagram was this Pull Up for Change challenge that big time Jackie Aina, I love her. She's a makeup guru, and she's someone that's always fought for women of color, especially in the makeup field, and holding brands accountable for not having enough shades and making that excuse that Black women don't wear makeup. It's like, we don't wear makeup because you don't make it for us. You don't make the colors for us, so how are we going to wear something that doesn't... So she's been a big fighter for that, a big advocate for that. And she is who I saw on Instagram calling out brands, basically saying, I'm a face for this. I work in this. And at this point, I need y'all to let me know who's working for you. Like, you have these brands, you're making money off of us, but who do you have employed in your company? Do you have Black people employed in your company? And I want receipts. So she basically gave them 72 hours and said, you have this much time to give me the demographics of who works for you, so we can be transparent, be self-aware, and if we have to call you out for not having any people of color working in your company, then we're going to call you out, because that's the only way we're going to improve. Because there's no reason, with the population of people we have in this country, that the majority being Caucasian people are holding everything, and there's barely any Black people or Latino people working. So how are your hiring processes working, and how that falls into systemic racism, and basically being like, we're not being hired, it's not because we're not qualified, it's because we're not being looked at. And why are we not being looked at by your company? So what are you doing that you're not acknowledging us? So I got really excited when I saw that, because that's mad real. I never thought about it. So she called out all these brands, and then this Instagram page came up that's actually called Pull Up for Change, and it lists off different brands and their receipts on the demographics of people that work there. Mm-hmm. So first I wanted to mention Adidas, because that's a big brand. And Adidas, basically, I didn't see the receipts of who they have employed, but Beyonce worked with them intentionally after she wanted to do this latest launch, and she went to Reebok first, and she declined to even work with Reebok because she walked into the room and she was the only Black person. So she's like, how am I going to work for you if you don't even work with you if you don't represent me? Mm-hmm. So she went to Adidas. So whoever was in the room clearly was what she wanted to see was representing her. So Adidas promises for the next year to employ 30% more Black and Latino people this year. So any new job roles, their plan is to employ 30% to be Black and Latinx people. That's their plan. That's the promise they've made. Mm-hmm. And then specific makeup brands I wanted to mention that caught my eye when I was looking through the page was that, like, for example, ColourPop. They're kind of a drugstore brand. They blew up a few years back really quickly because they have amazing products for really cheap prices, and then they just had a huge collection of different makeup items that just came out of nowhere. Yeah. And they caught my eye because 80% of their company is Latino, is Latinx. And I was like, for the country that we live in, that's not the norm. So seeing something like that is actually beautiful to see. And then you when you question demographics, you question location and all of that. But, they are located in California, but 80% Latino is huge. 7% white, 7% Asian, 3% Black, and 78% women identifying. Just playing into, because women play into this, and we're also behind on the curve as women, as Black women too. The 3% Black, we need to work on that, and they did acknowledge that and they mention it. So I love the transparency about it, and that's what got me excited. And then another brand that I was really surprised about is Natasha Denona. It's another makeup brand. Mm-hmm. They are expensive AF. A makeup palette that I be buying at Colourpop for like $12, it'd be like $100 and something. So my expectation was 98.999% white, and then whatever 0.% to everybody else.
Yeah. But
when I looked up their receipts, it said that they are 38% Latinx, 38%, 34% Black, 20% white, and 8% Asian.
Oh wow.
That had me. I was like stunned. I'm still stunned because I'm like, they're expensive. And I guess that stereotype, I just assumed they were going to be a company that just doesn't, they're going to employ white people because that's the norm in this country of, that's how the system's set up. And then one company that bothered me was BH Cosmetics, is a company I started with because, when you start makeup, you don't really know what you're doing. You go for the cheap stuff. They have good products. It's just cheaper. It's more drugstore value.
Yeah.
0% Black. I was pissed because I'm like, I put mad money into this company for not one person to work for you that's Black, and how does that even work?
Yeah.
So am I buying from them? I'm gonna need to see the numbers flip.
Oh, okay.
I'm not buying from them.
Oh, okay.
No.
It sounded like you were like.
No, it's not. I'm still gonna do it. I need to see these numbers change. They made a promise to do better. I need you to do better so you can get my coin. Because at this point, if my coin is not helping my people, you are not getting my coin. If my people are not employed, why am I giving you money so you can get richer and we can still stay behind? And playing off of that, I wanted to call out some brands that are Black or Latinx owned brands because, we need to support ourselves. And one thing that we have to remember is if we're not helping ourselves, we're not getting help because no one else is helping us. And I'm talking about being Latinx people or being Black people. So Mented Cosmetics is a Black owned brand. Beauty Bakery is a Black owned brand. And Beauty Blender, which is a big brand that makes millions, is solely owned by a Latina. She's the only person that owns it, and she built a multi-million-dollar company. So, if you're trying to support and stay within the realm of supporting us and ourselves, then those three brands I definitely do suggest. So.
Can you read the name just to make sure?
Raggedy Tiff.
Okay. So this is also a Latina-owned.
You have to point it to the camera.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Latina-owned, local from the United States, Black-owned brand as well. And so just notice moving forward, some of the mugs that we have on, some of the, attire that we have on. We're going to be making sure to be representing people of color, but also representing local brands and local businesses, because at the end of the day, supporting local businesses, supporting local artists is the number one thing that we're trying to do. And so you can't tell from my skin right now, but I am wearing this chamomile body oil from Nicole and Healing. I hope I'm saying this right, but a good friend that we went to college with, her name is Dashonda. She has created this beautiful blue brand of candles, oils, and melted wax that she has handcrafted herself, and I recently bought her oils. So definitely check out her website, and then also check out Raggedy Tiff, TIFF as well. We'll be putting out different people that we either are purchasing or are representing and supporting, as well as our sponsors, Beads by Troken, that we'll have every single episode. But aligning with Fashion Forward and pulling up and making sure that the people that you are supporting
are supporting you.
Yeah.
Are supporting your families, are supporting your friends, are supporting your neighborhoods. If our money needs to be coming back around.
Definitely.
And in this country that we live in the world that we live in, the money is going to the top 1%, and we need to fix that. And I don't know how that's even possible, but just redirecting our money into our communities, into our people, and helping ourselves build, because it has to come back around. That's the point of currency in the economy. It has to keep turning. So
accountability. And I will say, just you going like this reminded me of, don't quote me on this, but I remember there was a point in time that like they would look at the dollar for every ethnic identity. And so like they would look at the dollar of a Black person and how long it would last in the Black community, and they will look at the dollar of an Asian person and see how long it would last in the community, and always in that study the Black dollar would last less amount of time within the Black community than the rest of the identities. And so like just thinking about, how long are we going to keep our dollars within the community that we have, and within our communities?
That was actually really good. I was not, it wasn't resonating, but it played out like very well. Yay! So that's fashion forward, and this episode is really going, but we're almost at the end. And before we go, quickly, resonating with she, resonating with you?
Yes.
What's resonating with you?
What is resonating with me?
Is that going to be the song every time?
I don't know. I guess what's resonating with me is getting to know a little bit more, you getting to know a little bit more about me, and something that resonates with me a lot is movement and singing. And so if you
random voices.
Yes, if you know me, I do a lot of shoulder shenanigans. I do a lot of sound movements and hand movements,
all the time.
And like weird noises that come out of me. But it's like my way of being awkward and trying to like find okay in just the silence, but also in my anxiety. So like that's me being like having anxiety but trying to like calm it down, and so I'll burst out, and then it will soothe me back to, okay, what is it that we need to do?
I'm so opposite when I'm anxious.
And laughing. I laugh a lot. That's another thing. Like I've noticed that even in moments that I shouldn't be laughing, I laugh, and that's just my coping mechanism sometimes. Not sometimes.
That's resonating with you, resonating with me. We're playing off of being anxious. I just find a corner and I don't talk. That's how I handle being anxious and having anxiety. But resonating with me this week, I feel like everything we've talked about has been it. So really just taking care of ourselves at this point and hoping that we're all taking care of ourselves and not feeling obligated that we have to do a million things. We are talking about the world we're living in and wanting to make change and do better, but if you have to step aside, do it. Because, again, if you're not okay, you can't help anybody be okay.
At all.
And don't diminish yourself. Don't break yourself down to do so much better, because you are so much more powerful when you are healthy. So, take care of yourself first.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I will say it again. To allow... No, not that one. Sorry. Playback. You must always work not just within, but below your means. If you can handle 3 elements, handle only 2. If you can handle 10, then handle only 5. In that way, the ones that you do handle, you handle with more ease, with more mastery, and you create a feeling of strength and reserve. Remember that.
And with that, my name is Daphny Emily.
And my name is Eerees.
And we are Soulful She.
And always remember that he can listen, they can listen, but she is speaking.
And we might be one more drop in the ocean, but we just might be that last sip to quench your thirst. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.